Welcome back, guys. My next guest, I always say this, how their fun facts will set the tone, and this one's already off to a banger. She has seen Dave Matthews 34 times, which in the grand scheme of things isn't much for huge Matthews fans. She rode in a Mardi Gras Day parade growing up, has never made it through a full Star Wars movie. Probably have some haters out there on that one. Was a twin, but ate her sibling in the womb. And she has very strong negative opinions of melons and pickleball. VP of Content Events at MediaPost, Erin Everhart. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Ian, how are you?
Good. These fun facts are awesome. It's a Friday. We're recording it. So I'm not going to lie. I'm jacked up. Also, I drank a Red Bull, which I don't do. So this is going to be epic.
10 a.m. on a Friday for a Red Bull is pretty aggressive, I must say.
Aggressive. I feel it. So, all right. So you and I, we're going to go through these fun facts, but you and I met, shout out to Seth and John. We met each other through MediaPost probably 2.5 years ago. And I fell in love with your energy and who you are as a person. We're going to go deep into that. But I also sidebar think that Erin should be a comedian on the side but she is great at what she does, but we're going to dive into that. But I got a couple of questions. So being a father of triplets, now it makes sense. So you're almost like a double person. So you ate your sister in the womb.
Okay, hold on. You have triplets, Ian?
Yeah,
That is insane.
how did we not talk about this? Yeah.
How are you alive?
It's
How is your wife alive?
hence the Red Bull at 10 a.m.
Yeah, yeah. I only have one, and she's a handful. Yeah. So I find this out on my 18th birthday in a Target parking lot. Is when my mom casually drops this information of like, "Oh yeah, did you know that you were a twin?" And I was like, "No, I did not know that I was a twin. What happened?" So apparently, and the really funnier part of the story is my dad had already had a vasectomy, and then they found out that my parents were pregnant with me. So, I don't know if a third child was always in their plans, but in hindsight, knowing it could have been a third and a fourth child makes it even a little more comical. But yeah, I guess my mom was like maybe, 10 or 12 weeks pregnant. And she's at dinner with my dad and my two older siblings, and she starts bleeding, and they take her to the hospital, and they're like, well, one of the babies is fine. And I guess I just kicked the other sibling out of the womb. Girl, boy, I don't know what it was at this point, but I took all the good juice. I don't know what that says about me, but I also think a lot of what would have that happened if there were
Two
another.
of you on Earth
It would have been a lot. It would have been a lot.
would have
I
been a
agree.
lot. You probably would have tried to attack them at some point. But I also think maybe it was a superpower. Like there's two of you.
Ooh, I like the
Yeah.
superpower aspect of it. Yeah, could you imagine what could that do for MediaPost if now there's alternate egos? This is like a imitation game movie in some other universe that we could work through.
Yeah. Also being from New Orleans. So tell me about Mardi Gras. How'd you ride in parades growing up? That's like a rite of passage if you're lucky enough to even be able to do that. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so my dad grew up in New Orleans, so it's my whole family on his side has been over there. So we grew up going there. We got family friends into the Crew of Jefferson parade that
Hmm.
rode in Metairie. So it wasn't one of the big parades. I mean, I was, 4 years old at this point riding, so it was very family friendly, the big truck parades. And we did that for probably 12 years in a row. It was me, my brother, and my sister, my mom and dad, and then we had family members up there. When I was really, really young, my parents partitioned this kind of wooden car seat, if you will. Like they nailed it into the float so I could kind of sit up there and just throw beads itself. But it was awesome. It was such a cool experience. Ever since then, now too, we have family who captains one of the floats for Endymion. So my
Oh, wow.
husband now gets to ride. So he's riding again for I think his third year coming
No
up
kidding.
in next February. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, for 4 hours you're up there and people are screaming your name and you're just making someone's day with these little plastic beads.
Wait, do you think there's a possibility that you, as a 4-year-old, threw me, I know I'm way older than you, but threw me a bead, we'll just say as a 12-year-old, Do you think that
Yeah.
moment may have happened?
Yeah, I mean, if you went to the Crew of Jefferson Parade in
Absolutely.
Metairie and were
Yeah,
on Vets Boulevard at some
100%.
time during, we'll call it the 90s, yeah, 100%.
It probably happened.
This is why we're such good friends, Ian. We're
And then we
destined.
like, yeah, we keep passing ways. Also, I think that we're like in the what is it called? The s- different verses of the world, and we come in and out like 100%. This just validates it.
Yeah, agreed.
The
Agreed.
multiverse. Yeah. All right, let's dive in. Your career journey is pretty storybook. Sidebar, at the end of the podcast, we're going to talk about why you hate pickleball and melons, which is literally like summer, but we'll save that for the very end. But your career journey is very storybook, the brands that you've worked for. So I want to kind of set the tone there. Like, let's walk before you got to MediaPost, heading up content, your career journey. Let's go.
Yeah. So I went to school to be a journalist. I love to write. It is one of my favorite things to do. For a little bit, I was the music correspondent for, like the student music correspondent for Gainesville Sun at the University of Florida, which was awesome because I got to interview some of the bands that would come through and play around Gainesville, which was fantastic. It was like Ingrid Mickleson and Drive By Truckers were some really fun bands that I got to interview. Realized, very honestly, there is no money in journalism. And as much as I wanted to do that, it wasn't a viable career path for me. So had a brief stint as a book editor. And then I found my way into a web development agency that was based there in Gainesville. And I started their marketing department there. It was a little bit of SEO, a little bit of marketing automation, a little bit of social media, like right when Facebook Ads Manager launched. I mean, this was 2010 at this point. And just kind of learned marketing on the fly. So I did that for 4 years, and it was some of the funnest time that I've had being able to work across a variety of different industries. And then that led me to a career at the Home Depot through some kind of mutual friends that I had met as I started speaking at different conferences. Started in SEO at the Home Depot, moved into kind of content strategy, and then moved into full funnel media. And then my last role at Home Depot was launching their retail media network. So this was 2019. They were like, hey, Amazon is bringing in about $18 billion in ad revenue. Do you think this is something that we can do? And I'm like, hey, I mean, I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. And there was a lot of pushback internally in year one. I mean, the idea of having paid advertisements run on our owned property, it was really, really foreign for Home Depot. And it was a hard thing to get set up. And now I look at all of the things that they've done with Orange Apron, and it's truly humbling to see where that goes. And it's so fun too to connect with like former coworkers and be like, yeah, we remember you were employee number one who kind of got this thing started. And I remember one of my colleagues was like, yeah, when you decided to leave, I was like, well, this retail media thing, it was like a fun little side project, but that's not going to go anywhere. And now it's like taken over the entire industry, right?
And it's massive. Well,
Massive.
so let's talk about that. Sounds like early days within your job at the radio station, but then pivoting onto the agency. Like, what was it about you? Was it curiosity that just made you want to learn? And we've talked about this with a lot of guests. Like, the media landscape when I first started was very simplistic. Today, it is all over the place, right? So, what was it about like constantly wanting to learn something new, bring new things to the table, being the first to market? I jokingly say, like, internally early in my career, I had a lot of arrows in my back because I would bring these innovative ideas and it was just like, bro, what are you doing? So what was it about you, Erin, that was it curiosity or what was it?
I don't know if it was curiosity as much as it was, well, no one's doing this, and it seems like an interesting thing to do. So let's pull on the thread to see if it's there. I've always really liked learning new things. I've always really liked kind of trying to stay fresh. But I also credit the leaders that I had in my career that helped push me and gave me a lot of leeway to say, listen, as a web development agency, and we are predominantly, a SaaS model, we build websites and we move on, we need to find recurring revenue. Can you figure it out? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I learned about SEO as a journalism career. I bet we can charge a couple $1,000s a month to some of our clients and have that as recurring basis to help our P&L, right? That probably started kind of my love of launching new things in companies. When it came to media at Home Depot, I'll be honest, Ian, I can't say I'm like super passionate about media. It's interesting, right? But it is also really commoditized, and it's right now a really oversaturated industry. But it was an idea to learn something new and to try something different. And my leaders at Home Depot were like, hey, we think you'll be great in this. Do you want to try it? We want you for this position. It was a promotion. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a go. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say I was as much curious as I was really fortunate to have leaders who saw something in me, who gave me an opportunity to try something new, and I wasn't at least scared to say no about that.
Yeah, and it says a lot. As you're saying this, I'm thinking about my own career and thinking about the people that were my leaders along the way. And it's not everyone's that fortunate that has a boss or a leader or management that says like, hey, I want you to go down this path. And, oftentimes it's a selfish thing. It's a trust thing. It's hey, what if we fail? But that's what I love about innovation and thinking about new things is you do get to learn. You do get to launch something, and you get to, we call it like a skunk works. Like you get to say like, hey, within the company itself, we're going to start this little tiny company. And if it works, great. If not, it was good R&D. But that says a lot. So for like our listeners on, like, what advice would you give them that now in your career you've kind of evolved on, like giving those opportunities? I think a lot of leaders want to like keep everything to themselves or are afraid to fail, or maybe something else.
Yeah. I would say, especially for those newer in their career, say yes to everything that comes your way. And it feels a little counterculture to kind of the work environment that we're in right now, right? There is maybe a misconception with younger employees that they don't want to give it their all, or they don't want to sign up for the extracurricular or stay a minute past 5. And part of me is like, I wish I learned that earlier because I killed myself for 15 years of doing all of the extra things. But also part of me is like, well, if I didn't say yes to everything that came my way, I probably wouldn't be in the career that I have today. And I love my job today. So it is a kind of a balance. But, when someone asked me to lead the Homer Fund at Home Depot, which was our big fundraising efforts. Did I want to do that? No. But did I recognize it was an opportunity to get connected with dozens and hundreds of other people in the organization that I normally wouldn't want? I jumped on it. Like, who wouldn't want to say that? And I'm just a natural, like, I want to talk to people and I want to meet as many people as I possible. And I don't necessarily want anything from there, but who knows where it's going to come from. And for me, it led to multiple paths at Home Depot. It led to my job at Inspire Brands. And, that brought me to this conversation with you. Without that, Ian, we would never be talking right now. So
I think so. Yeah. I would just be some weirdo that like had shingles and gave you a high five at MediaPost.
That's true. It's looking a lot better, by the way. You're looking great. Yeah.
Filled up nicely. Got some scars to prove it, but well, so another thing that you said, and look, I love the controversial comment about it too. It's like media is saturated. And, this is a weird statement, but I always wish that this isn't a superpower that I want, but maybe just for a moment. But, you and I work and live in media. You're more on the content side, but you see it every day. And what I wish I could do is see, what is random woman, man, child passing by in Home Depot, in Walmart, in Target, driving past a billboard? Like, what do they actually think and feel? Because I know I'm like been in the business for 21 years and I'm thinking of all these like, oh, how can we future proof that? When you say that like retail media is oversaturated, I would agree from a media perspective. You're like, Jesus, do we have to put another screen at? And look, New York is the absolute worst. I'm like, you guys are just whoring yourself out for space. And you're like, whatever, programmatic's going to throw me some money if I turn a TV sideways and put it in the back of the bodega. Like, it's wild to me. But when you make that comment, I'm curious from like a consumer's perspective, are you like, you walk into the Home Depot because we can beat them up because you're not there, or insert any big box and you're like, do you think they're like, oh wow, this kiosk and this screen really helped me purchase that PVC pipe? Like, is it beneficial, or is it kind of also a lot of like oversaturation and noise?
I mean, listen, I built my career in marketing and I love marketing. And there is really, really good marketing. But for every really good marketing, there's also really, really bad marketing that happens too. It's the same with
Mhm.
any sort of pendulum swing that you'll have. I think us in the industry get absorbed in the really bad, the crappy display banners, the things that take over your whole screen, right? That you're just trying to click out and finish your Wordle game, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I also love that there is really good things that we're doing. And I think there are some things that resonate very, very well with consumers, but I think consumers are over it just as much as we are within the industry when we hear it every day. Not everything has to be advertised, not everything has to shove a 15-second or a 6-second spot in there, but I also know that they probably wouldn't find out about this widget, this hammer, or whatever else it may be if it wasn't because of it. So, you know, I mean, yes, there is an overabundance of media, but also, yes, we still live in a capitalist economy, and that's where we're at this
Yeah.
point.
No, and I think you're spot on. And from a screen perspective, if it does delight and surprise, and that's more on the media or more on the brand to make sure the creative's relevant, which in the out of home space we push heavily, like be relevant, whether it's culture. Like right now, even driving around Baton Rouge here where we are at our corporate office, and there's no soccer match within 4 hours in Houston, 8 hours to where you are in Atlanta. It's still on all of our digital, every single brand has jumped all over FIFA in some way, whether they're a major sponsor or they're, side sponsoring it, whatever it may be. And it feels good. And you drive anywhere. Also, we would never be friends because I'm an LSU guy and you're a UF grad, but we'll put that aside. But you can attest to this, like in Gainesville, the whole entire town feels different, even from a media perspective, when it is SEC football, right?
Yeah. And people want to get attached to it. And that's where this notion of culture marketing that's kind of spun up, I love it because I do think it makes things more relevant to the consumer. I think like any marketing tactic, we as marketers see something that works and we beat it to death until it is not worthy or not relevant anymore. It will happen with creators. It will happen with culture marketing. But being in Atlanta, seeing all of the things happening around the World Cup, and also seeing the creative and clever ways that people who are not advertising directly with FIFA are kind of working around that within the city, that's fun for me. It's like, oh yeah, I know that truly isn't a sponsor of FIFA, but that's an actually creative way for them to stay relevant without actually ever mentioning the words World Cup or FIFA for obvious legality reasons. It's at the end of the day, it comes back to who can be clever, who can be creative, who can take a little bit of risk and make it fun.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the one that I saw this morning. Raising Cane's has, a goal and it has chicken tenders that are flying into the goal. And it's like, okay. And I think that, we as consumers, to your point, we're overwhelmed with advertising. So if you stand out from a creative perspective, but I do want to go back to like, obviously influencers. That's my favorite, is when you see an influencer that does it really well, like it's powerful and it sticks. I'm thinking about like Paris Hilton and McCormick and how she does these clever TikTok reels, which are amazing. But then the ones that get just absolutely torched, it's like, how are you relevant to that brand? So what are your thoughts around that? Like the influencer world and brands and influencers that are just trying to catch a check as opposed to brands being sloppy with it. But the brands that do it right, they associate themselves with relevant.
Yeah, and I think it's I think the average influencer is probably too expensive for what they're trying to do. I think the amount of money that brands pop into some of these mega influencers for a, 15-second reel or for a host of content stories, it's kind of nauseating to be how heavily financed it is. It works, obviously. I don't know how long the effects of that it works for because everything feels so myopic and it disappears and there's not kind of long withstanding things. But I also know that there's some really smart people who work in these companies who are shelling out very successful influencer programs. And I know that they're also keeping a very eye on every dollar spent for marketing. And especially now when budgets are always getting tighter, everyone's shifting back into the performance landscape, they're going to figure out if it's not driving the measurable return, they're going to cut it. They're going to reinvest it someplace else. I do think to your point though, it will always, and this is me saying like, I'm not a creator. I'm not a creative by any means, but it will always come back to the creative. It will always come back to the messaging. Like a perfect example of what I love right now, I'm from the influencer one, is what Olipop and Good Wipes is doing. Is like, oh, good for your gut and good for your butt, and it's like that is super clever. And it's like, is it really marketing? Is just if you can make it rhyme and make it catchy, that's what's going to happen. But frankly, yes, right? Like I love, this is not influencers, but what Domino's has done with their new extra or their new outro, Domino's.
Yep.
It is super snappy. It is very catchy. People remember that. Like those little snippets are going to be what makes a stand. Not necessarily did you partner with this influencer or did you have placement on this area. Like I truly think it goes back to the messaging of what you're trying to say. And if you can do it in a really fun, catchy way.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that one up because they're running billboards, both static and digital, across the entire US with literally just those words. So touch on that a bit, like the changing and the impacts of consumers and the omni-channel approach as we use our own little, verbiage. But at the end of the day, it's like brands that follow the consumer journey and they don't, because we as consumers, I don't care what media. I'm not like, oh, you hit me on TikTok, I'm going to definitely buy this product. Although sidebar, Instagram like torches me all the time. I'm like, oh, cricket polo,
Yeah.
buy.
I
Every
mean,
brand buy.
we are
But
the
so
older
touch on that,
millennials,
like,
right?
right. The power of that omni-channel approach, the screens following the consumer on their journey. Or don't.
It's ever totally possible to follow the consumer everywhere that they're at. And that's what, the pubs and the trades and the best practices will say is that you need to follow that customer journey and they're going here and you want to have them on their billboards and you want to catch them on their screens. In practice, that's a lot harder to orchestrate than it actually is said and done. And so while it is important, obviously, while you need to figure out what are the right mixes, you shouldn't be everywhere. You shouldn't be everything to everyone. I have always, in my personal life, in my professional life, I've always taken the mindset that I would either be really, really good at a few things than okay at a wide variety of things. So as brands, I think we can take that same advice. What things can we as a brand really, really be good at? What areas do we have a right to own? We are going to go all in on influencers. And damn it, I'm going to be the best influenced brand out there with the best creative and the best content. Do it. And if that works for your consumers and that works for your brand, that's awesome. But that doesn't mean that you have to then run, no offense, 15 out of home billboards if it doesn't make sense for them. But if you're like,
Yeah.
my people are on the go, they're travelers, they're commuters, whatever it makes sense, right? They're the Buckies of the world. That makes sense for them, and they are really, really good at those things. That's what I wish we as marketers would do more of. Focus and go deep on the things that you have the right to own, and don't stress so much about kind of the little tentacles that may come up or like the shiny moments that are like, we have to be here, we have to be here. obviously so much easier said than done, because I also know what it's like to have leaders come up to you and be like, Erin, we need to be in Pokemon Go, right? Like that was an actual conversation that we navigated
Wow.
in 2016 or 2015 at Home Depot. And it's like, do we need to be in Pokemon Go? Do we really need to do this? Harder to say no to those higher ups. I get that, but that's also what will make you a trusted partner in the end.
Wait, that's such a great comment because do you remember the metaverse? Like
Yeah.
everyone had to own property, own blocks. I remember we even went down the path, and it was like a hard pass, but we were like, should we put billboards in the metaverse? And then lo and behold, like roadblocks. As I'm researching this, and you'll find this, and you probably do. I think you did tell me this. You do this with your daughter, but my kids, they're like my constant like guinea pig. And side story about everyone having to be in the metaverse. It's like we got to own land in metaverse, and like I think Snoop Dogg bought a bunch of land, and like you saw all these random like brands. You're like, bro, why would I go to like Kentucky Fried Chicken land? Like, what is this? But while I was saying that, we were like, well, we should put billboards all throughout the metaverse. And there was, I won't call out the out of home companies, a few global ones, or one in the UK was like built a whole experience. It was the exact replica of their Piccadilly inventory. And it's just like, what are you doing? And they're like, yeah, it's the extension when you drive past the billboard and then you go into, Roblox. And then lo and behold, I'm watching my son play Roblox one day, a couple of years back, and Bad Guys, the movie, like just came out. And we had just got a huge contract for like Bad Guys, and he's playing Roblox, Aaron, and like he pulls his little car out of his driveway, and I was like, Jake, is that a billboard? And he's like, yeah. And then it's literally like cycling just like ours. So the developers at Roblox like built a couple of billboards, and they were like generating, and it was the same exact Bad Guys, the animation
Wow.
movie, and it was running it. And I was like, somebody was tapped like you were, was like, we need to build out Pokemon Go. So I'm just curious, like what was that experience going to be? Like you walked into a Home Depot virtual and got your
It
Go.
never went anywhere. Thankfully, there were people smarter than me who could navigate the conversations with the higher ups, we'll call it. So it never went anywhere, right? But there's been dozens of conversations throughout my career of we need to be able to do this and we need to be able to do that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that like I've always pushed back because that's not true. I mean, there are things that you just have to do to satisfy the needs of what some people want to do or what we think it's going to do. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it's a flop. I mean, we all, as marketers, will have to suffice to the vanity metrics or the things that may be trendy and fatty, but we also don't know, hey, if we never do it, we don't know if it's going to work or not, right? I also think Chili's does this really, really well of trying like a lot of a little different things and then honing in on what works for them. Like they are fantastic within the creator economy, within the social media space. They've had things that worked really, really well, but then they've also been like, oh, back in April when every CEO was like trying their product and eating their burger, Chili's wasn't part of that conversation. I mean, they made a conscious decision. And I bet someone in Chili's was like, do you think we need to do this? We need to do this. And collectively, they were like, actually, no, we're going to kind of keep going on this path. It's out there. You just kind of have to look for it.
Yeah. And I think you talked about this on stage as well, but Wendy's, how cheeky they are with their Twitter account or X account, the best follow ever. Because you're like, what is this woman going to say today? Because it is going to pop off about something random and just have nothing to do with the brand, but it's fun and it's culture, right? It's part of
Yeah.
like what it would be like in your house when you woke up in the morning, your kid comes down. It's like, I wonder what Wendy's going to say on X.
Well,
So,
and they leaned into it,
mhm.
they've realized that the social media culture is a bit it's a bit picky, the comment section can be sometimes a little contentious, it can be a little snarky, and they found a way to be able to take that and run with it. And they've created a brand voice for it. I don't know if in Wendy's they were like, this is exactly what's going to be our brand voice, or if it just kind of fell into that way and it's what happened. But yeah, I mean, they're doing it really, really well.
Mhm. So let's pivot back. So your career, Home Depot, Inspire Brands is next. Let's talk about like the the dark side of corporate America. You know, you're a high performer. I mean, still are today. And you kind of mentioned like cutbacks for advertising, but also cutbacks of employees. A lot of people over the last few years have experienced that, where brands are like, we're cutting teams, we're cutting back. What, if you will, and I know and we prep for this, but would love for you to kind of share a little bit more, like being a high performer and still you experience the like, hey, you've done great. Maybe you should have done our Pokemon Go idea, but what was what was that like? And the setbacks, the uncertainties, it's obviously worked out really well, which we're going to dive deeper into your role today, but just want to share, because I know a lot of our listeners have probably been like, yes, I was there as well.
Yeah. I left Depot for Arby's in 2020. So I started January 2020 at Arby's, which was a really great time to start a new job in the fast food industry, knowing what would have happened 3 months later. It was at that time too, like Arby's didn't even have delivery. We didn't have online ordering. So it was a really hectic time to make that jump and that pivot. Obviously, we didn't know COVID was going to happen in January 2020. It is what it is. I had 4 amazing years at Inspire Brands. That company grew and changed so much in that 4-year period. I mean, in 2020, it was only a 2-year-old company. Arby's had just purchased Buffalo Wild Wings to form Inspire Brands. They were just kind of figuring out their stuff, right? And what we built in terms of a shared services platform that had and powered e-commerce for a number of different brands. It was so great to be able to see it grow. At the end of the day, though, I got laid off, and it was terrible. It was so terrible. And it is the hardest thing that people will have to go through. At the moment, it came out of nowhere. In hindsight, I probably saw it coming, but hindsight is 2020, right? And certainly myself, as always being one of those people who had the up and to the right and the upper 9 box, whatever you want to do it in their kind of yearly reviews. I never thought it could happen to me. It was like, oh my gosh, I am completely invaluable to this company. Well, in reality, Arby's existed before me and it's going to exist after me. Whatever company you're with existed before you, it will exist after you as well too, right? It was a very, very hard thing for me to go through. I remember it happening. It happened virtually, which was also
Ugh.
painful to deal with. And I'm sitting there later that afternoon and I'm sobbing at my computer screen and I'm just applying for jobs, tears running down my face, just applying for my jobs. And I remember my husband comes up from the basement where he was working and he like closes my laptops and he's like, you need to step away. He's like, this is unhealthy, whatever it is going on. Everything is going to be okay. And it was, right? But in that moment, in the 4 hours where it's raw and fresh and you question your professional ability, you question the relationships that you had, you question everything that got you to this point of like, maybe I am like a terrible employee and maybe I am a terrible human and people don't like me as much as you think they are. All of those thoughts went through your head, and then to be totally honest, I got super drunk and I moved on with my life, right? Like, you have to. I was very, very fortunate in that I was already feeling like my time at Arby's was coming to an end. Personally, right? Like I had been there 4 years. I'd been in the same role for 4 years. I was ready to try something new. I was getting a little scratchy. And it was around that time where MediaPost approached me and they were like, listen, how about you just come work for us full time? I had been attending their events for many, many years, gosh, 10 plus years or so. I have always loved the events. Some of the people that I met at my first MediaPost event, shout out Morgan, HP, Jeff from Geico, who's no longer at Geico anymore, but they're still close friends. Like we text regularly, right? And so I was bought into the product of what we would have to market. They were like, "Hey, just come work for us." I was like, "This is not a job." I'm like, "What? This is not a real
Yeah.
thing that I could do. I'm a
Looks
marketer,
like a fun
right?"
travel. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is weird. So we were flirting back and forth for a little bit, right? I was interested and I was curious, but I didn't know if it was the right thing to leave. I had a couple other job offers from consumer brands, or at least exploring other job offers with consumer brands at around the same time. And then so I got laid off on a Friday from Arby's, and I went through all of those emotions that we talked about. I called John Whitfield on Monday and I was like, "Hey, I don't really have a time stipulation anymore, right? I'm kind of open and on the market." And he's like, "All right, let me see what I can do." I had a verbal offer the Monday after I got laid off.
Amazing. Yeah.
That I recognize does not happen. Like that is surreal life. My husband has been like, "Well, it is, but you also recognized of like, it's always good to kind of keep your options open. Because at the end of the day, you should be loyal to a company, you should give it your all. But at the end of the day, it is a job. It is a business, and in corporate America, you are a number. However well performing you are, however high up you are, unless you are literally the founder and owner of the company, you are just a number to them. And so making sure that you always protect the most important things, yourself, your family, that will go a long way. I was extremely fortunate that it worked out in my favor, and not just because I quickly got another job, but because it pivoted me into a career that I didn't even know I was preparing for my whole life. Like now you're sitting here telling me I can work in marketing about the skill that I love and I'm so passionate about, but I also have this journalism side that I'm able to write stories and talk to people and showcase other people's work. Like, oh my God, sign on the dotted line. Like, how did I get pinch me? How did I get so lucky that this job even exists itself? If
Do
you're
you think?
navigating, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, because I love this, but there's so many perfect nuggets. I'm on your husband's camp. It's you have been preparing for this job, and I don't want to say it's luck because it just appeared, but I think that you and so many others, what they forget is it's like you're constantly building your blocks. So many people have this misconception. It's like, well, I want to climb the corporate ladder and I want to be, a director. And then I want to be a VP, AVP, EVP, blah, 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 all the way up to the top. But the reality of it is if you're not building your base, and maybe the wrong word earlier when I asked you, is it curiosity? But what you are constantly doing is you were building that pyramid base the entire time of learning things, saying yes. Probably you went and explored the Pokemon Go and augmented reality world, and it was still a no, but you still had that nugget of knowledge. And then going towards, people. I think at the end of the day, there's this gray area between being very passionate and loyal to a company while also constantly meeting people. And I think that's the part that people miss out. And I won't say the gentleman's name, but a good friend of mine now runs a major holdco. And the moment he got fired from his previous agency job 5, 7 years ago, he's like, I found out real quick that all the people that loved me and like took me to places and all these things, they were so superficial. He was like, this many people texted me, 5. And he was like, you, John Miller, and this guy's going to know who he is. I don't want to say his name, but we had a Duke basketball game on the books, and we were going to fly him to Duke, to Durham. We were going to watch a game, and then the week before he got fired, he was like, well, I guess this is off the books. And we're like, bro, we weren't taking you to Cameron Indoor because we want you to spend money. Like, yeah, that's great. And again, this says a lot about Lamar, and I'm not bragging about our company, but I am. But it was like, we're bringing you to Cameron because you played ball in college. You're a good friend. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, you're going to land somewhere. And so I think that's key, right? So all the media posts, which I want you to kind of explain the media post process and the event specific side, but every single person you meet, it's not that you're like flirting and you're like, hey, so if you guys ever got anything, wink, wink, like give me a hire. It's, hey, I'm just pure, like I love to talk to humans and learn more. And then organically that person's going to be like, hey, Erin's badass. I don't know if we have a spot for it, but we should go after and get it. So I would argue that you've built, and for everyone else out there, like that's the way that you should behave. Like treat your job as that, but treat the opportunity. And maybe it's unique in the ad world. Like my doctor friends and lawyer friends, which all their careers except for mine are, in my opinion, it's very like siloed. Like we get to meet some very interesting people. Like use that as like a benefit, not to grow your career, but just to want to learn about new people and surround yourself with knowledge, right?
Yeah, dude, you're so right. Like it's not about like me, and I'm not like I'm happy as can be at MediaPost, you know? Like these people I'm not like, "Oh, I would love to go work at this company one day," right? It's more of like, "God, they're doing something really cool." It's like, isn't that such an interesting thing to add to your, little brain cells that we have about like I think if you approach networking, for the lack of a better word, of what's in it for me, you're approaching it the wrong way. And it does, not everyone is a natural networker and not everyone has the interpersonal skills where it just clicks and it's harder for a lot of people. But it's just a matter of it, maybe it does go back to that curious word, being curious around what other people are doing, and just figuring out a ways to like make their lives a little better. Like I've loved connecting people to other folks. I've loved seeing people being like, yeah, I got my job because I came to a MediaPost event and I met this person here. If I, everyone will say this, and in hindsight, right, the elder millennial that I am, in my 20s, people would tell you all the time of like, you never know where the opportunity is going to lead you. You never know what's going to happen in the future. You never know what this person may come out for you, and you don't. And I didn't understand that in my 20s. And if you do understand that in your 20s, you are far better off than anybody else. Because there is no way when I was 26 that I would have, when I went to my first MediaPost event, like side note, where I thought it was a total scam. They were going to steal my kidneys. I'm like, what do you mean? You're going to like pay for me to have 2 nights at Stein Erickson? I'm like, this is not real. And I never would have thought that like 15 years later, I'm now on the other side of things running the content itself. Like you don't know what's going to happen. And it's also not just about the job, Ian. Like these are friends. Like I've met some amazing friends through this job and through all of the networking that I have. So it's not about like the career opportunity or what's this in it for me or how can I make this person. It's like, I don't know, I just genuinely like people. And it is funny too, because like you talked about the career ladder, and it's like, I'm going to raise these rungs and I'm going to go do these things. And I was that person. Like I was going to be the CMO. Like you can talk to anyone that I talked to. I was like, yeah, I will be a CMO. Like this is my job. This is what I will do at a major consumer brand. And I don't know if it was getting laid off or the birth of my daughter or getting older, but priorities changed and they changed for the better. And I am so happy having a job where I am making a true impact. I'm not selling widgets. I'm not selling sandwiches. Like I truly believe I'm making an impact, being able to connect people who otherwise normally wouldn't be able to get connected. Oh, and by the way, I'm able to have time with my daughter when she still wants to be around. I'm able to, go work out in the middle of the afternoon because I can block my schedule accordingly. I'm able to be here for my family, right? Like I wouldn't trade that passion for any CMO title in the world. And I didn't think that was ever going to change for me. And, but this has offered me that opportunity to do it. And I wouldn't look back anywhere.
Yeah. And I feel like I forgot to ask you to tell people what the MediaPost is and the events, because right now it sounds like it's a dating app / timeshare.
It does.
But
Yes.
we've been members of MediaPost, I think, for our 4th year now. And so maybe give our listeners like very high level on the event side. And then I'm going to be very braggadocious about you because I think you're like the greatest MC of all time.
That's very sweet. I think I have a very
Of the
niche
timeshare.
skill set for this. Yeah. So, MediaPost, they're the best conferences you've never heard of, truthfully. And they've done it through the ground up, word of mouth. It's not broad based advertising, which I love. They are intimate, they are small events by design, that is so focused around just a community, right? It's not an expo hall, not our vibe. It is a 100-person event capped there, right? You will know everybody by the end of the 3 days. It's a mix of content in the morning. It is then afternoon activities because no one wants to be locked in a windowless conference room for 8 hours a day. And then it's dinners, right? It's the best way I can describe it is summer camp for marketers, whether that's by an industry where you'll connect with other folks in retail or QSR or health and pharma or CPG, or it's going deep into a particular marketing channel where you'll connect with other subject matter expertise from a variety of industries, whether that's email and loyalty or TV and video, out of home experiential, or performance marketing, right? I loved the summits when I went to them. I love the summits even more now that I'm kind of curating these little groups of people. Selfishly too, it is so fun for me to meet someone, get them to come to a conference, see them in real life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is so rewarding for me that I have a job where I can like choose and figure out who can come hang out with us in Tahoe for 3 days, right? And share insights to other marketers in the community. It's a pretty surreal experience if you think about it.
Yeah, and from an advertiser publisher perspective too, it's like at first I was like, this seems weird. Like why? And also, you're not in a conference room. You're at some like phenomenal hotel resort, always super bougie. So good for John for always picking the best possible places. But it does, like when you sign up for it, you go to the first one, you're like, does this work, or are we just trying to like, is this like a friend app? Like, what are we doing? But you're right, because I think what it does is in a world of like people being curious, but also more importantly, people selling all the time, it's like, this is exhausting. And what I love about the event, and obviously we're a publisher. I'm not a seller. I'm not on the sales team at Lamar, but we're a publisher. And even the companies that are there, they understand like, hey, at the end of the day, like shout out to this woman, Katie Green, who probably doesn't listen to the podcast, but she's been on the podcast. I met her on a paddleboard experience going in Nashville. And, she worked for this non-alcoholic brand. And it was like, she's one of the coolest people I've ever met. And we didn't talk about, I didn't even know what she did. She had no idea what I did until like day 3 when I got up and spoke on stage. And she was like, oh, that's cool. So organically you get to interact with people, and it's really just sharing like best practices, content. And one of my favorite parts, Erin, about this is like in those breakout sessions and even on stage is you'll have like competitive CPG brands, competitive QSR brands, the last one that I went to. And they're like sharing things like, oh, we did this, but we really messed this up. Like, don't ever do that. So watching brands share best practices and then like actually leaning into media partners and being like, hey, how would you guys have handled this? Like the woman from Blaze Pizza, who I'm trying to get on the podcast, and she sat on stage and talked about how they partnered with like a comic book. And I remember the woman from Wendy's raised her hand. She's like, hey, how'd y'all do that? Like, I want to get into a comic book for Disney Plus. And it was like, yeah, it was super easy. But the ability to share, and then you leave, and then you're like, you go do some wild activity like riding horses. It's like, of course I'm going to answer that call when Ian calls, because we rode up the mountain horses and we found some butterfly garden. Like, yeah, like this guy's my friend. He's not trying to sell me something. So that's what I love about it is that you guys have curated, and now knowing you're the mastermind, like putting certain people all in the room together, and you're like, wonder how this person's going to interact with this person. Like, it's fun.
It's super fun, and it's the most rewarding thing for me is hearing from people of like, oh yeah, we still have a group text from the Deer Valley event when we were all at the same table, and it's like, Western Union and Synovus and Delta Airlines are all in a group text together, and I'm like, that's super cool,
Yeah.
like we have such a great team who's able to help curate all of those people together. And that's honestly, you hit the nail on the head, Ian. Like what I loved about these events when I was attending, when I was at Home Depot or when I was at Arby's, like it was like you felt equal. I wasn't, you never felt like you were an ice sculpture that sponsors just kind of navigate around and grab your name tag and scan your stuff and like, let me show you this quick 45-minute, PowerPoint deck. Like I never got that feeling. I met some amazing, not only people, but awesome vendors who I worked with throughout my career at both of those companies, right? Because you approach it in just a human way. I think that we miss that in both the media when you're going to the consumer side and in just the industry itself is we're all here just for a really short period amount of time. At the end of the day, I also know that like when we retire, people don't like focus so much on what you did, but you focus on these life experiences that you've gathered and these people that you've met along the way. And I just feel incredibly fortunate that I'm able to do that for a living, and find a way to like have just a good time while I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I hope that people, it's beyond the Media Post event is my hope. It's like, all right, look, Ian is just trying to contact you because he wants to share something uniquely cool. Like I love the ice sculpture because most major conferences you go to, it's like, and I've been very blessed to be one of those people that come off a stage from a non-sponsored perspective, but it's like, I'm always the one that's like, when you come off a stage, like, who wants to talk to me? Like, I'll share everything. But you have so many of these conferences that it's like, I'm the CMO. How dare I would
Yeah.
never talk to you in the crowd. It's like, bro, we all came here to learn from you. Like, you're not that important. Like,
Yeah.
at
No
the end of
one's
the
not better
day,
than anybody else.
nobody's
Right.
building a statue for you because you work for QSR brand XYZ. Again, back to your point, unless you're the owner founder, like no one gives a shit, period.
No, not
So,
really. And if
well,
Megan is
so,
not going to be on this podcast, you let me know. I will text her right now and
yeah,
tell her
Megan,
that
let's
she needs
go.
to go because she is a force and she is fantastic. And
She's
I met
incredible.
her at a MediaPost event when she
Yeah.
was at Waffle House and I was at Arby's. Like, and now we see each other like every 3 months here in Atlanta. Like, it's friends.
Yeah. Maybe I'll start calling out people on the
Ooh, I
podcast.
love
You.
this.
Yeah.
Who else do you want? I
Who
bet I
else
can
do you
go.
want? Yeah, who else should we have on the podcast? Have a live viewing call in. So I do want to talk a little bit more about this, and then the last couple of minutes because I don't want to glaze over the fact that you're a working mom and how well you balance the career. And you and I talk about this a good bit, kind of sharing stories. But the last thing I'll say about the conference is, and I want you to kind of share with the listeners, but you do these opening monologues every morning, and they are like the most epic thing in the world. And so to give the listeners from my perspective sitting in the audience, Erin, runs the content for these events and you do your kickoff talk, but then the next morning when you kick it off, you summarize what everyone said throughout the day. And it's not like a boring, like this brand said this and this brand said this, but you curate this like, and I told you this at the table at the last one, but you curate this like most phenomenal roast slash summarize slash like comedic slash very informative in like 5-7 minutes the next day. So maybe give a little bit more context of what I'm speaking about, but also I'm so blown away about how your mind works. Like I think you called some guy out the next morning. You're like, and oh, by the way, we also learned that, Tony in the audience, his questions are last 2.5 minutes, like, which is so hilarious.
I'm really, really humbled. And it pinches, like, I'm still surprised that people just like laugh at my jokes. Frankly, again, I'm funny in a very, very specific way. Apparently
Very
that way is
appreciative.
like about marketing. So it works out. Yeah. So when I kick off the summit, I try to figure out ways to connect something in my personal life that's going on with the industry or what we're talking about, whether it's a channel or something else, right? And I've gotten pretty lucky that I've been able. There's a lot of things if you just sit there and think about like the crossover. Obviously, I spent many years in QSR and retail; those are pretty easy for me. We have a sports marketing one coming up in July.
Can't wait.
As an avid Florida fan, like I could probably write that in my sleep, just drawing from personal experiences. But also, like we'll have the VP of sports marketing at Lowe's as our opening keynote. I spent 6 years at Home Depot. I mean, the content just writes itself, right?
Yep.
Like that's an easy fodder to have. It goes back to like being human and being okay to be a little messy and to share some things that hurts, right? Like one of the hardest ones that I did was when at our Farm and Healthcare Summit, I talked about my mom getting diagnosed with cancer, and that sucks, right? With colon cancer, right? And she is fine now, but that moment is a moment that you will never want to live in your life, right? And you're okay to talk about those things. You make it relatable to somebody else because they're like, hey, yeah, I went through that same thing too. Or on a lighter note of like, yeah, oh my God, my 4-year-old like loves Moana. Like, how do we get it? Like just figure it out. The second day ones are always really, really fun just because you have to listen. It's part of the job. I tell my daughter that we have two eyes and we have two ears and only one mouth, so we should listen and look twice as much as we speak, right? I think that as adults, we kind of forget that sometimes. But you pick up on the cues of what made people laugh or what resonated really well with people. You also very much have to read the room because not everyone can understand my snarky and sarcastic humor. And the last thing that I want to do is to pick on someone who can't have a little fun with it, right? So I have to read the people a little bit to make sure that they're going to be okay, that I pull in these little personal anecdotes. And I'm sure that I've maybe crossed a line one or two here. I'm sure I have. But you find just the ways that resonated well with people. And I write little notes down of like, oh yeah, Kelly from Hyatt, her like foot fell asleep on stage and she like almost tripped coming off and she like took it with stride kind of thing. But I'm like, I'm absolutely going to mention that. Or yeah, whoever he was, Tyler asked like 45-minute long questions and you can roast him a little bit for that. At the end of the day, I've always lived my life, or I've always thought of these summits as like people want to be educated.
Yep.
Absolutely. But they want to be entertained. And that's
Yep.
my job, right? Like keep the vibes high.
Well, you're doing an excellent job with it, and my goal is to try to make the next day monologue. But I also simultaneously I've spoken at probably over 5,000 plus pitches, stage keynotes, all those things. And I do have to say, my worst performance ever. And I'm glad you were doing the opening monologue the next day. But in my like sponsored speech, like my voice just completely went out. Not because I lost my voice, but for whatever reason. And look, I could talk to a stop sign. I host a podcast. Like I don't get nervous. But my worst one ever, and I just remember the rest of that trip. I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to be like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right.
He's a
Well,
weirdo.
you told me I was going to mention you in one of the opening ones with our shingle interaction, but you said
But
specifically
yeah, yeah.
not to do that on stage. And so I took
Yeah,
that.
sure. Well, I appreciate it. Now all of our listeners know that I had shingles and I showed up at a conference anyway, looking like a freak.
To be fair, you also introduced that earlier on the podcast. So if you're going to put it out in the world, I'm
It's
going to
my world.
let you.
It's yeah, this is not my fault. Um, I literally could talk to you for days and days and we could record, but as we kind of wrap up here, I don't want to glaze over the fact that, you're a working mom, but you do, and you kind of alluded to this a bit, but you bring your daughter into the conversations, you talk about the flexibility of your job, but maybe just give our listeners, because a good bit of, and I have 4 or 5 women that work for me. One of them is a mom, and we stress this all the time. Like a job's just a job. Like perform at your highest level, but like I don't want you to. You have the flexibility. I jokingly told her, shout out to Shirley. I jokingly told her when her firstborn, I was like, hey, the moment your little guy starts to look like he's walking, like you go work from home because we're in office. I'm like, you go work from home for like that week because I don't want you. And I was like, and even if you're not at the office, I was like, give me your husband's cell phone and you push that little kid on the ground, him, and just be like, hey, I think you maybe want to come home. He's getting close to walking. But like, I think that that's important in a world of like what we push our employees to do and to strive to be, but to also not forget the most important thing in the world, which is why are we doing this, right? You're doing it for, I see your little girl over your left shoulder. Like that's key. But I don't think a lot of leaders think that way. It's like, I just look at you as an employee and as a cog, and maybe we're different at Lamar, but that's extremely important to me. So touch on that a bit, because it sounds like you have that flexibility, but also you do have to travel. And so maybe give our listeners a little advice on that as well.
Yeah. I have to travel probably about once a month. Sometimes it's just for 3 nights, sometimes it's for a whole week. And I wouldn't be able to do this job if it wasn't for my husband. He's awesome. He is so supportive of the opportunity that I have personally and professionally, but what this means for our family. And he has always leaned in, probably more than I have sometimes on the parenting side, right? So, like, first and foremost, I guess, like, don't marry an asshole. um, one,
Winning.
but yeah, like I couldn't feel good about me traveling as much if he wasn't such a fantastic dad and partner to me. Um, and it's gotten, my daughter is 4.5. It has gotten to the age where she gets a little weepy whenever I leave. There was like this last one that I was gone. My husband texted me and he's like, hey, she's having a really hard time. Like, can we FaceTime? We FaceTime. She's like crying into her lasagna at dinner because she like misses mommy so much. I mean, I'm sure she was fine like 5 minutes later. But yeah, like that sucks. Oh my God. It like tugs on your heartstrings. And so I thought about that a lot as I was considering taking this position role, because my daughter was 2 whenever I left Arby's. But that was equally as hard, Ian. Dropping her off at 7:45 in the morning so I could make it into the office by 8:30, trying to rush back, picking her up by 6. She went to bed at like 7 when she was 2.
Yeah.
So like that is no time whatsoever. And so while I travel a lot, I am a full-time employee when I'm at these events. Like I can't parent from Nashville or from Tahoe, right? And that is allowed me to be more of a parent when I'm here than any other corporate America job ever could, right? And so I do think it's also so important for my daughter to see both of us working and for my daughter to be okay when one of us is not there. My husband also travels for work. She's used to it. She's flexible. She gets it, right? She sees us being and doing something that we both love and that we're passionate about. And she also knows like our lives exist or not around her. Like we have lives outside of our daughter. And as much as I love my daughter, like I love my husband more, right? Like that's a shift that I had to have in my brain because I don't want my whole life to be around her because I don't want her to think that is the way that you should parent. It's not for me. And for some parent that is, and that's awesome for them. That's how you do it. This is just how we approach things to make sure that we have a balance and for it. I want her to find a great career. I want her to realize that you can have both. One of my most memorable mentors, Patrick Schwing, when he was a CMO at Arby's, I was getting ready to go on maternity leave. We were obviously all remote still. It was like, 3 days before I was about to give birth. And he's like, I don't know why we're having this conversation. Like, you're not doing anything right now. And he said to me, he's like, just remember, Erin, you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. And I've really taken that mentality that I am going to be, all in as a parent sometimes times, and that means I can only give 50% at work. And there's going to be other times where I have to give 100% at work, and that means I can only be a 50% parent sometimes. And again, it all goes back to like, I found a partner who's able, and we understand each other in a way that balances it out for it. None of this would be able to happen without him, and without having, a company that understands, like, as important as this is, like, she is way more important.
Yep. Yeah. And that's powerful. And what great advice. And again, going back to having leaders that you feel comfortable around, that you can say yes to, that you can be given those opportunities, it's equally important. And we have that here at Lamar, obviously, which is why I manage the way that I manage, is because my boss a long time ago, I gave a keynote speech to 3,000 people in New Orleans, and I was so excited about it, overly prepared, gave it, killed it, texted my boss, who's our CEO at the now, and he was just like, hey, he's like, hey, how's your son? Doesn't he have a game? And I was like, I realize. And then and to make it even worse, as we wrap up here, is I said, yeah, and he actually hit a home run in his game last night. And he was like, oh, were you there? And I was like, no, I was coming off a stage. And he was like, hey man, let me remind you, no one will remember that speech, but your son will remember you missed this. And that, very similar to your conversation, shifts your mindset. And again, I want to make this clear, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, to your boss's point, like, you can't have it all, but you can have it all at different moments. Because so many people are all in their career and see their kids on the weekend. New Yorkers are adamant about this. Or opposite, it's like, I can do both and I can have that balance. You just have to find the balance, but also, more importantly, find a company that's going to inspire you, but also understand the importance of family and work. And if you, like, there's plenty of widgets to sell out there, people. Like, go find another widget.
There are. We do work in a capitalist economy, so we're never going to have
exactly. All right. Because we can't leave without, why do you hate melons and pickleball?
Okay, well, melons are like, all melons are absolutely disgusting. They taste like nothing. Watermelon, honeydew, even papaya, who likes to persuade itself that it's not a melon. A papaya is 100%.
Papaya is disgusting. I agree with that.
They're all absolutely terrible because, Ian, they're the herpes of fruit. Meaning, if a cantaloupe and a blueberry are next to each other, that blueberry no longer tastes like a blueberry. It tastes like a cantaloupe. Like, it is worthless fruit. I have very strong passions about melons. Pickleball, I think, is just a lazy person sport. I am an avid tennis player. I am annoyed that they have put pickleball lines on my tennis courts. I'm annoyed that they don't understand the proper etiquette of court games. Like, don't walk behind me when I'm in the middle of a serve. It's loud as hell on there. Like, I think it's great, like, for my parents. They're loving pickleball. Some people love it. Fantastic. Cool. But, like, don't take my tennis courts. Like, have your own pickleball courts. Like, stop taking the courts that I have from there. It drives... I probably hate melons more than I hate pickleball, if I have to.
It sounds like it's pretty close, though.
So, too, it is pretty close. I have very strong opinions. Welcome to my
with you, though. I'm a purist. Obviously, I'm a baseball guy, so I'm a purist when it comes to that type of thing. And I'm tennis over pickleball. Also, a lot of pickleball players.
As a baseball player,
I do. I love that. I think it's the fun side of it, because people aren't assholes in wiffle ball, but like pickleball, I've seen the worst videos ever where you like see like male female partners, doubles, pickleball doubles. I guess everything in pickleball is doubles, because you can't get to the ball because you're not actually an athlete. Sorry, shout out to everybody.
Ian said it, not me. Ian said it.
But I've seen so many people where it's like the man's like dominating the court, like diving in front of the woman. It's like, dude, just everybody relax. We have a pickleball court here in Baton Rouge that's like taken off. And then even our tennis club right down the street, they actually removed a couple of, like, not the clay courts, because I think but they removed a couple of courts and turned them into pickleball courts because they wanted to increase membership. And it's like, dude, be a purist. Stand behind one thing. I'm going to probably die on the way to the parking lot today when this publishes, because people are going to be like, bro, why do you hate pickleball? Why do you say I wasn't an athlete?
my tennis team and I want to go through all of the tennis courts in Atlanta, the public tennis courts, and put signs outside that says no pickleball allowed, only tennis
Do
players.
it.
We haven't done it yet, but maybe we will one day.
And then put like a QR code that links to a microsite and just like have
Yeah,
it so heavily branded, like, and get like, find some like former tennis player to get behind it and have like a video.
we can totally make this work. This is going to be my project for the rest of the afternoon.
I have to say, seems like you got your Friday filled up. I love it. I'm excited. I'll see you in July
Oh,
at
excellent. The
in
sports marketing one
sports
or farm?
marketing. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Sports
sports
guy, I
marketing
have to
is
be there.
really
I'm
fun.
I'm blown away by this. But look, this was a ton of fun. I think that what you're doing and how you position yourself early in your career put you to where you are. I love you as a human. I think that you have so much energy, and I think what you bring to those events, which I think you brought to our listeners today, it's like marketing and advertising, it's fun. And
Yeah.
stop being so serious about yourself and understand that like we're all here to do something in this world, and it should be about your family, but also learn something new, like become something that you were meant to be without being caught up in this like I got to get to the top as fast as possible and I'm going to run over everybody else. And I think that that's kind of what, in my opinion, from my eyes, what you've kind of built your career. And I think you're kind of just getting started too. Like it's fun to watch you and everyone else at MediaPost and what you guys have built. I think it's why you have the audiences that you have, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to sell sandwiches, like you said, but it's just so much fun if you just like organically do this with friends along the way.
You summarized it perfectly. I mean, signed, sealed, delivered, wrap that up. Ian, we couldn't have done this without people like you too. So it's always been fun on our side as well.
Well, I appreciate everything and enjoy your husband and daughter the rest of the afternoon and go get that pickleball.
Thanks, Ian. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, my friend.